I'll try to start by, first of all, welcoming our guest and friend, Professor Futoshi Hoshino, who we had really a chance because we are organizing an academic philosophical forum, which is already a sort of a tradition in our academic life. This is a series of exchanges of Bulgarian and Japanese philosophers and literary scholars, which we initiated with Hoshino Futoshi and our dear friend Professor Yasuo Kobayashi 4 years ago, and this is already our 5th meeting in Sofia, and somehow we had this secret parallel agenda that if by accident we succeed to have a performance of Meteor or maybe even a premiere at that time would be great, because Futoshi already knew the team and knew their work in an indirect way, because he has seen recordings and he has discussed their work, and the reason for that is that in fact Professor Hoshino, who is one of the brightest philosophers from the new generation in Japan, is also actively involved in the artistic life as not only critical voice or theorist, but he is also in fact he is going to start a new job in the Department of Art in the University of Kanazawa, is it pronounced? Kanazawa, sorry, in Kanazawa. And he already had a lot of experience of working with art students, and I might reveal a small secret that also Futoshi was involved in some artistic projects. We met for the first time when I was in Tokyo in 2010, and Futoshi was finishing his PhD, and we got excited to find out that we had similar passions about contemporary Japanese art, and we still discuss also Japanese avant-garde art from the 60s and 70s. And in a way, by really this very fortunate coincidence, we have a work which we saw tonight, which in a way would be also relevant for this broader context of our conversation, because if we open this more historical background of what we have seen, maybe we would have to go even to some Japanese, back to some Japanese radical artistic forms from the last century. But before saying that, and before giving the floor to Futoshi, we were just discussing that it's really a little bit of a hard task to talk about this show, and it's also maybe also a sort of a critical or theoretical problem that maybe the show works with limits of expression or expressibility. What could be expressed on stage, where discourse fails and where something else starts. And now we are in this tricky, ambiguous position. Can we talk? Should we talk? Is it even an offensive thing to talk? I just greeted our immortal lovers and actors and backstage, and they have all sorts of bruises and there is some blood and this kind of thing. So that's quite serious, much more serious than philosophy, but then maybe, who knows. So that's a question, and I just, this was reminding me because I have also many friends and colleagues, and also some of my former students and now very dear younger colleagues. I remember that after one of our first collaborations with Ani, a dying play, we had this gathering, a talk of an art program run by my friend Alexander Kiosef, and then we had this very intellectual exchange. It was very rich and powerful, but then there was someone in the audience who stood and said, first of all, you should go and kiss the feet of these actors and stop saying these, obnoxious, discursive, complex things. And it was, for all of us, was quite, hard thing to experience. So we are aware of this problem, so please be sympathetic with our task. And maybe I accept in a moment of madness, because I have to say that as if I was invited to make the bow and was listed as a member of the team, but sometimes I have a variety of functions in my work with Meteor. Sometimes I'm kind of upgraded to co-author. Sometimes I'm called advisor or theorist or whatever, so I have a very different modalities of participation. And in this case, my participation, I have to confess, was quite limited, discussing the idea and on discursive level, but since I was absent during the bigger period of the rehearsal, I saw the show almost done. So for me, it's really very genuine experience, and one person that was missing in the Baus, who is a very important member of the team, maybe I should mention, is the composer of the music, Konstantin Markov, who is a very well-known Bulgarian musician. And it was a very intense collaboration of Ani and Konstantin Markov to produce the sound. And I also need to say, because my friends are sometimes too humble, they said it's not serious to list too many functions when they make the presentation of the play, but in fact the songs are written by the actors and the director. I mean, also the songs as songs composed. So the Konstantin Markov is not the author of the songs, he's the author of the music. So maybe this is important information that I don't think is mentioned. And having this function, so I think my most important sort of participation in the physical landscape is the guitar, Leo's guitar, which I confess is my teenager's guitar, which I gave to Leo once, not expecting that they'll bring it on stage, so I feel extremely emotional about this, and I'm really happy that they didn't smash it. Yeah. So maybe I stop here for now. It's just an introduction. Maybe Futoshi would like to.
So first of all, I have to say I have to express my sincere gratitude for your invitation. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to see that very wonderful performance. It's for the first time I see your performance at the halls. So as Boyan said, it is hard to say after a wonderful performance, maybe, and it takes some time to elaborate or to articulate the view or the problem through that performance I got. So I just propose some philosophical notion or a word which might be related to the performance. So first of all, maybe so watching the performance, so there are very interesting transition from human to animal, and from animal to mythological figures, and to human again. So that kind of transition is very crucial in this performance. And so in every step, the way where the passion or tension are expressed in different ways. So the typical is that in a mythological figures, Leo and Gaia played they have tension, but they do not act physically very brutal way, but they stop. So it's as if abivalgus, pathos formel. Yeah, it's very. It's stopped, but it has very strong tension. Yeah, inside their bodies, and so it is very contrast to the very demanding movements at the beginning of the performance. So that kind of transition of the expression of passion of the two figures, that kind of transition of the passion and tension is is the point I got from that performance. So that's the first point, yeah.
Thank you very much. Maybe I know that there are many academic people coming from various fields, but I need maybe just these small footnotes that Professor Hoshino is quoting Abi Warburg, which is a very prominent art historian from the turn of the previous century, who in the first half of the 20th century created a very influential paradigm of dealing with images, and this is precisely what he called pathos formel, like a formal pathos. So he was trying to analyze, for instance, the historical representation of pathos, of passion, and he created this famous atlas of Nemozin, and by the way, recently in Bulgaria we have some of the first translations of his text done by, I think they are both here, Bogdana Paskaleva and Dimitar Boshkov, very bright philosopher and literary theorist who worked on this text, so maybe they'll be, and I think they are already published, so it's already an important reference also in our theoretical discussions. But going back to these questions, because you opened the question of pathos, I also wanted to say something, and because the program of the spectacle is not printed yet, but I gave some text which is already a sort of a philosophical statement, which is only a reaction to what I saw during the first rehearsal that I saw. So I'm sure that I projected some of my own philosophical reflections. So this is this kind of our own, how should I say, special rhythm or of exchange and collaboration, in which I think we are projecting on each other different ideas coming from also different fields. And I was precisely thinking of this attempt to deal with questions of non-human animal life without returning to this kind of very present in contemporary performance, especially from the 60s on, ideas of primal life, of this kind of retro-utopian return to origins as sort of a direct expression of affects, of sort of going back to presence before representation. And I think that they created what I was calling, of course joking, sort of an anti-actionist, but maybe quasi-actionist puppet theater with these animal figures, which on one hand are revealing that there is no possible return to animal life, so they don't pretend to be Viennese actionists here on stage, but at the same time they deal with sort of techniques of effect, which is very much connected to postures as well, to these kind of formal dimensions which we saw in this direct Baroque imagery at the end. And I have to say, when they told me that they were fascinated with this term coming from insurance, total damage, and I believe that they want to do something lighter after all series of very metaphysical works, and like Moldoror, Peace for You, and in a way, they told me that it will be about love, and I knowing very well Ani, Leo and Galia, I mean they're sort of my extended family, so I didn't trust. I said, okay, this will be some bad sort of nasty parody. And then when I saw, I realized that it was genuinely true. But of course, this is, whoever knows them, they know that they are prominent dog lovers, and they save all sorts of stray dogs, and sometimes dogs pass away because they're very sick. And we have other friends in the audience, like Mira Tishu, our friend, famous artist and dog saver. So there is this kind of promiscuity and constant transfer of dogs especially in our neighborhood. I'm sorry, I'm getting personal, but I somehow found really things that I remembered. One of the first collaborations that we did was a play after Ani's text, The Eye, and she was asked, I remember, who influenced her work, she said my dogs. And everybody thought it was a joke, but I was seeing already on the level of research of certain techniques of movement, I saw this very pronounced interest in patterns of movement, which are, of course, technical, but that they are not normative techniques of movement or of dance or of performance or theater acting, but they are very much interested in something that's why I mentioned the Japanese tradition, something in which the classic figures of Buto were interested, like Hijikata, like for instance infantile technique, how children are moving, because children are not at all natural creatures, they are monstrous figures in the sense that they always invent techniques, and they are put at the end of some form of normative technique, of moving, etc., of this kind of human gait, but in a way, autistic children never leave their patterns, which are really idiosyncratic, and this is one of the interesting. The other is this animal line. So I was thinking about this attempt to deal with these questions without going back to this kind of myths of the origin of the power of life, etc., but still, in fact, to take effect, to take things that are a little bit removed by conceptual art very seriously. And to add something more, I think if there is a misleading, because there very, in the work of Ani, there is always this kind of seductive move in which they bring you to something which looks very humorous, grotesque, and all of a sudden it becomes quite scary, or the opposite. So it's this kind of very subtle transitions, and that which are also sort of a trap for, I think, for the audience perception. And in this case, I think it was a trap when they spoke about this comedy, that it will be a comedy, because and also listening to you, Futoshi, I really felt that there is a lot of tragic content. Of course, because what is happening, we see, all of you who know the Aristotelian idea of tragedy, we don't have really a fabula, we don't have a clear plot, but as if we have reenactment of moments of pathos and catharsis. Pathos and catharsis. So without really unfolding in time, as if the task of the actors is to reach a state of pathos and of catharsis, which is the psychological, let's say, device of Greek tragedy according to Aristotle, the first model of Greek tragedy, for those who are not really informed about that.
So, talking about passion, the second point I got from that performance is that, like, indiscernibility of the passions. So, sometimes laughing and crying, they are hard to take apart, how to discern. So, like, kind of very intensive passions are sometimes hard to tell apart one from another. So that kind of so Leo was laughing or crying. It's sometimes hard to tell. So that kind of tension, various kinds of intensive emotion, but at the extreme point, it will be maybe, I don't know, it will be the same thing or different thing, I don't know, but kind of in the maximum of the intensive emotion is indiscernible sometimes. So that's my second impression from that performance.
I completely agree, because I have a note about ambiguity, I was saying, but that's true in discernibility, because in a way, in this kind of maximum intensity, as you say, as if opposite coincide. Sometimes this makes me think of Bataille, who we were busy with in the past. So Bataille, who speaks that the limits of a beauty always reaches horror, and we know this famous quote from Heiner Müller about the horror, the beauty is only the beginning of horror. So there is this kind of ambiguity of passion itself, and in a way, I wouldn't dare calling this study or kind of passion, because I think Ani would resist to this, to say study, but it's clear that the content, what the piece is busy with, of course, it started with this kind of course, parody or satire of the impossibility or the contemporary media vulgarization of effects, of course, in this kind of all this kitschy pop or chalga style enactments of passions that we are bombarded with, and it's obvious that it was like some sort of a surface that had to be torn apart in order to unfold other possibilities of passion, and then came the animal figures, and then it took much more ambiguous direction. At the same time, it was always returning to the frame of the show, of the spectacle through the songs, which on one hand this was a complete surprise for me, I have to say. The songs I didn't expect from the Metals at all, so they succeeded surprising me. So I didn't expect this, and I have to say that they are very ambiguous. They are very atypical for Ani's writing as well. So they're very simple, but they are not really pop texts. So there is also this ambiguity of the level, variety of micro-genres that appear in the piece. So this ambiguity, I think, is really extended, this indiscernibility. Also, I would say maybe of techniques, because sometimes it's not clear, and I think this was also a repetitive moment, is this a love acts of kind of making love, or it's violence? And this ambiguity, which also could make us think of Bataille tradition, I think was very, or suffering, or pathos, or love, so kind of eros and thanatos dialectics.
And I'd like to add one very small footnote to Hijikata, because you mentioned to Buto and Tatsumi Hijikata, who is one of the very the most famous Buto dancer, and one of the notions which Hijikata invented is dying body. In Japanese, it is called suijakutai. It is body which continues dying, which goes to die. So it is like totally opposite to the intensive like use of body. So Hijikata used body in a very weak way. Yeah, his body looks always so weak, not so strong. But even though his body had a unique kind of tension, so the tension sometimes is related to the weak body. Weak body has its own tension, and so maybe that might be related to that problems of the passion and tension. And so like in this performance, like their body are always like demanding movement, like they're always like moving hard, and sometimes they stop like pathos formel or bamboo, and sometimes their body turns to like weak and slow, and so that kind of tension and like how to say quality of body, yeah, that might somehow related to that our like this conversation. I'm not sure.
Yes, one of the things we were working with, say it's a very basic thing for the whole spectacle. It's if you say that the point where laughter and cry converge, it's probably the hysteria. One of the points where they can converge. And hysteria, like love and death and the process of dying, are a very strong channel possibility with or without, and to generally to escape from mediocrity, which is a very nice thing to happen to somebody. The problem with this, nevertheless, if it is hysteria or whatever, it's that there is the problem with the ending, which is, of course, the problem with the dying body, or with the dying, or with the perpetuating the state of hysteria. Because if you think of about it like about a thing that has an ending, that it's almost senseless to start it at all, because you know that it will be consumed, and that the people or animals or whatever will be consumed in it also. So you are like in the beginning, if you decide that you have to, or you could escape or step over the banal state of put up with the general state of life, which is not excessive and which is not hysterical, and where love and death and everything is very tamed. If you decide that you will try to step beyond, you always have a clear horizon, which is total damage. You have to go to the total damage, or you are not going anywhere. And we were thinking and trying and working with, it's not a concept, it's just a like proposition. What would happen? It is probably utopian and it's probably impossible, but what would happen if this state of hysteria and of hyperactive love or other emotions in it is forced, but the attempt is to turn the volume to Mach, but not to accomplish the total damage, and to be able to persist. Let's employ the Boyan's term, to persist in the total damage, which is of course paradoxical, because if it is total damage, then it is kaput, it's the end. So for us in this work there is a paradox which is inside, and it could not be overcome. So in a way it is probably for us a tragic performance, as it is not possible for it to escape its own initial paradox.
Unless there is, because I'm blinded by the light, so I don't see you, unless there is really a desire to say something. I don't want to make the conventional exchange with public, which sometimes I feel very forced when I'm sitting in the public, but because I don't see you, you can spontaneously, if you want to, just intervene. Otherwise, unfortunately, the bar is not open tonight. So I don't know what to announce, but I would like, as I'm the symbolic host, just to...
just a few words, if it's possible.
Yes, please.
Share my experience. I have to say I'm very happy to see this work of Ani as every work of art. But to this one I'm more than especially, I think I had more intense experience. Which probably is not true, because I had a very intense experience with the last one as well, with the Red Planet. But I'm very happy to see when Ani goes a bit out of the, goes to this more unsafe place, where is the body, when it's only the body and only the energy, and because she loves text. I know that we have seen a lot of her work, and she loves huge amounts of text and articulation, and she loves words, and and the voice, of course. But I always have felt that the performers have been kind of locked in a little bit in the prison of the text, which is beautiful to see how they survive in this prison many times. You see there the fight, the survival mode, and the relation and the love between the love and the hate between and destructive relation sometimes between the text and the concept and the poetry and the literature and the body of the performer. But here, when also with I see a similarity with a very early work of, I forgot the name of it, with the Red House. I've seen it. Yeah, probably. Yeah, there was not much text there. Or there was text at all.
No.
But yeah, the body cannot lie, you know. And here, when you force so much your performers, your instruments somehow, I mean, then it creates a connection, a very direct connection with the audience and with my body, of course. And sometimes the text can be a barrier, you know, because I have to go to these people through the text, so it's much more complicated labyrinth that sometimes I probably refuse to go through, because probably sometimes I don't understand the text. But here I didn't have this problem at all, because if there was text, I understand it completely. The text was very simple, it was very much enough, and everything was kind of was focused in the body, and all this trip, all this impossibility, all this perpetration, all these very playful and humorous also a relation with limits. Because sometimes you can relate to limit, the physical limits and the body limits in a very like a dramatic and being a victim of it, and we have seen this many times. But here, the sacrification kind of goes beyond the limits, and it's not funny, it's not tragic anymore. You cannot even call it with the words. It just creates a very direct connection with the body of the spectator, and the only thing that I see myself like smiling all the time, but not because it's funny, and because I start to feel these huge amounts of love towards these two people on stage, and I think it didn't happen before in my previous experience with your work. I don't know why this time it happened, but thank you very much.
Thank you. It's because our performance is full of love.
Yeah, this was something. Yeah. If this performance is about love, I mean, it's completely succeeded, because I don't know how much love was represented, but there was a lot of love that was created inside of my body during watching the show. So I think it's successful.
Ivo, because I don't see you, so I'm sure, because just to say to Futoshi that this is Ivo Dimchev, who is the other artist I was telling you a lot about, who is the one who worked with Japanese Buto artists, and he's a very prominent figure in worldwide. So I know he speaks out of experience. So thank you. I'm sorry, I'm completely blinded, so I was wondering if it's you or not. There is empathy. Thank you. Okay, I think this Ivo's point about love was returning us at the beginning, so thank you for so much love. Thank you, Futoshi, thank you, Ani, thank you, all of you, for your